Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Oh, okay, now I'm really low. That's weird. Okay, I didn't even hardly rearrange my camera. I'm going to need to sit on my legs or something to get... Okay, this is better. Wow. In between shows, I didn't think I rearranged everything. I think my camera conspires against me. So I'm going to just get comfortable here. All right, here we go. All right, this is now Liberty Late at night. We don't need to be as polite as we were in the other stream. This is Liberty. This isn't quite as serious. Well, I mean, it's serious, obviously, but it's not. It's not just the really shitty material I had to deal with last time, and I don't mean like shitty like. I loved the show with Angela. It was shitty that we had to deal with that. It was shitty that two friends were required to have to come on video and assure everybody we were actually friends. Like, that is just ridiculous. And I see JJ's negging my song. Most people love that song, JJ. I get more requests for people who want a link to where they can download that song than nearly anything else. So you are quite alone in hating that song. Now I will do a little bit of a longer intros. But first I want to thank everyone that was at the stream earlier. We raised $60 each for my campaign and for Angela's campaign. I sent Angela her $60 just a few moments ago. So we both thank you very much. There were several people who contributed that I didn't get to thank. The chat was going really fast, so I apologize for that. You guys know that I love to... I try to be courteous and thank when people are generous, but thank you so much for supporting both of our campaigns. Along the bottom is other ways you can support me, particularly through Patreon, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I would truly, truly appreciate it. And it seems some people really are getting their Reno gear on. Where did I put his Mike's shirt? I wanted to hold up that white Reno Reset shirt. But get your Reno Reset gear at tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch. There's been a lot of purchases lately, and I really appreciate it. It really helps support the show, and you get some cool t-shirts in the meantime. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it for the promo. I am still super, super tired from traveling, so if I seem a little low energy, that's why. I have a favor I need to do for someone after this show, and then my happy ass is going to bed. Hey, Mike, I know your shirt is here. I just gotta find it. But I am so tired, and I've got so much work to do for the Colorado Convention. I am going to preempt some questions right now that happened during the last stream. I am not going to talk about the manufactured controversy of a video in Colorado that was on the Colorado's page and pulled down. If you happen to find that fascinating, find someone else to talk about it. There are two reasons. You picked it up on Saturday. Okay, that's why it's not here then. You could have really fucked with me, Mike. It came out nice, though, didn't it? If you find something about this total nothing burger of a video fascinating, find someone else to talk about it. There's two reasons why I'm not going to talk about it right now. Number one, I am on the board, and this is the subject of board discussions right now and potential legal issues. And one thing I do think belongs in executive session is legal issues, and I am not going to breach confidentiality. When I'm an ordinary member and the JC decides whatever the JC is going to decide, whatever, I'll probably talk about it then. But until then, please honor the fact that I have a fiduciary duty to the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and I am not going to discuss it right now. In the future, maybe. So you might as well just not waste your time asking in chat, because I will ignore it. Let's see the comments we have already, because what we are here to talk about, what we are here to dish the tea on, is the LPPA Convention. All right. Okay. Boy. I don't even know how to put this in some ways. So it was a huge convention, first of all. There were 339 credentialed delegates. That is big for a state convention. That is really, really big of a state convention. My goodness, that might have been the biggest one I've been to. I know California ones are really big too. Someone will have to tell me how big the California one was. If it was more than 339. Now, part of that is because Pennsylvania did, at that time, allow out-of-state delegates. They no longer do. I helped to vote myself out of a delegate spot, a state delegate spot in Pennsylvania. This story might be a bit disjointed because the whole thing still is unbelievable to me, so I am probably going to be focusing on answering questions in the order in which they come. But until I get specific questions, I'm just going to kind of freeform this. So, I got there, and we went into. It was in this beautiful theater. The theater was gorgeous, but the funniest comment I saw today, though, about the theater is, why does that place look like a cathedral? Considering the cathedral caucus, meltdown, the fact that it looked like a cathedral, was funny. So we got there, and before the convention even started, the current LPPA chair posted on social media that she wasn't going to attend the convention. Apparently, she told people a month ahead of time, though. First I learned of it was that day, that she wasn't going to attend the convention and that she was going to be getting a massage instead. When you have the honor of being elected chair, to just decide you're not going to show up to your own convention, that is rude. That is rude and disrespectful. If you no longer want the honor of serving as chair, then resign. Then resign. She put her vice chairs in a very bad position, and this started the first controversy of the convention. Because the way Pennsylvania works is there are 3 vice chairs, I think, right? Eastern, Western, and something. You guys let me know. There are 3 vice chairs. One of them resigned. So there ended up being 2 vice chairs. It's not unusual to have 2 vice chairs. They are often, though, ranked. Yeah, Eastern, Western, and Central. Got it. But they're often ranked. First vice chair and second vice chair. That's not unusual. I think Arizona has that. And in fact, Roberts recommends when you have more than one vice chair that they be ranked. Why? Because in the absence of the chair, the vice chair takes the gavel in order of rank. They didn't have ranking. So who took the gavel? Now, their bylaws said for board meetings, not for conventions, for board meetings, it's the vice chair who's been in the party the longest. I don't know what you do when there's an equal amount of time. But it doesn't say that for conventions. So, and Max Henry, you are very welcome I loved your meme. The meme was hilarious. So, who then chairs the convention? The bylaws gave no direction. So, one of the first things I had brought up was there was someone who was the vice chair, and one of the points of order I brought up was, we haven't determined who is chairing this convention. And their argument was, well, the chair who decided not to attend the convention crowned this guy. And I just learned recently from JJ that the chair doesn't just get to do that. They have to have the consent of the body. And I figured the body would consent, but I wanted them to actually do the thing they were supposed to do. And I don't know why this is a recurrent theme at so many conventions I've been at. This is the 3rd convention I've been at. Hopefully this doesn't happen in Colorado, where the credentialing report isn't ready. And we're sitting around with our thumbs up our rear for about a half an hour waiting for a credentialing report. So, while we're waiting for the credentialing report, they're dealing with other matters. And I objected, saying, we don't have a chair even yet. And I can't figure out where in the proceedings this happened. It was in the very beginning. Actually, it was during credentialing. So during credentialing, someone moved to exclude all of the out-of-state delegates just because they were out of state. And I raised a point of order that you can't do that because your bylaws entitle anybody who's a dues-paying member, whether they live in or out of state, that they are allowed to be a delegate. So I raised a point of order that that's against the bylaws. You can't just exclude people that way. And the chair got very upset with me, and he refused to rule on my point of order. And I was like, and he kept going, and I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I have a point of order, and I would like a ruling on it. And he said, if I don't be quiet, he's going to forcibly have me removed from the hall. That was the beginning of the drama. That is the first time that I have ever, and I'm pretty sure, I might have a couple, my memory might not be exactly correct, but I think I'm pretty close. Anyone here who was there can correct me on any of my facts. I'm sorry I'm a little low in the camera here, but I could only sit on my foot for so long. Oh, maybe I can correct this. Hold on. I think I can narrow my window a little. It's bothering me that I'm not centered in the screen here. Camera effects. Let me see if I can fix this. Nope, that's not any better. That's not any... Sorry, this is about as good as I could do. Okay, so he said he was going to have me removed. That's the first time I've ever been threatened to be removed from the hall. I wasn't misbehaving. I was just raising a point of order and saying I deserved a ruling. But I was so taken aback by the fact that I was just threatened by the chair that I sat down. Yeah, let's do the Wayne's World Unnecessary Zoom. Woo! Woo! So I just sat down and I'm like, okay, I don't really know what to do about this. I don't want to complain further and get removed from the hall. But just an FYI, the chair does not have the authority to unilaterally say someone is going to be removed from the hall. What the chair can do if a member is, and we're talking about members, not non-members, because Tony argued, argue's the wrong word, because Tony D'Orazio is such a sweetheart. Tony pointed out on my Facebook page that the chair can threaten to remove a non-member from a hall. I didn't even look that up. I don't know if that's correct or not, but we weren't dealing with a member. We were dealing with a non-member. I mean, a member. Excuse me. I was a member. I was a voting credentialed member. Tony, there you are. That's why I corrected. And I don't even know if you're correct on that point, but I was a member. So I'll have to look that up at some other point. But I just sat my booty down because I was like having visions of getting drug out of the hall. So I sat down and I was like, I don't really know what to do about this if I'm not even allowed to raise points of order. I don't know. So then Michael Heiss got threatened to be removed from the hall for something very similar. And it was at that point, since it was quite obvious that the chair had a definite bias here and wasn't being fair, the body voted to appoint a chair pro tem. So then a chair pro tem presided over the rest of the meeting. And things went much smoother from that point on. Now, the chair pro tem was Kim Krawcheck, a sweetheart, ran things much more informally than I tend to do when I'm chairing meetings, but it worked well with the crowd. The culture of every assembly is different. I prefer I prefer a much more formal meeting when you're dealing with that many people. But it worked out perfectly well for that particular assembly. So they took a recess, and during recess, no, we broke for lunch at that point. By that point, it was lunchtime. So we broke for lunch, and Ken asked me, and they had their own parliamentarian there. Mike, you're gonna die. The guy, after I got to know him, he was a sweetheart. Please, this is not, it's just me being me. I'm sitting there, and somebody really needed to just start singing Let It Go to me, because I'm sitting there in the audience, and they have a parliamentarian there. I don't know if he's registered. I don't know what the credentials or anything were, but he has the 10th edition. And I'm like, you know, you guys know me enough that the whole time I'm sitting there going, this is the 10th edition. We're not on the 10th edition. We're on the 12th edition. So someone from the audience goes up and hands him the 12th edition and says, you might want to be using the current book. But anyway, he was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart. Okay? Oh, boy. So we were at lunch break at that point. And Ken asked me, in order to keep things on track, would I mind serving as co-parliamentarian with the retained parliamentarian that was already there? He wasn't looking to remove that gentleman. He just asked if I would be willing to. And he said he already asked the gentleman who was there if he would mind. And the gentleman who was there said he definitely would not mind, that he could tell by what I was saying on the microphone that I knew what I was talking about. So we served as co-parliamentarians. Meanwhile, immediately when so after lunch, we reconvene. And I'm going to go back to something that happened before lunch, by the way. I know this is kind of disjointed because I'm waiting for, questions. And I see there are some. We're going to get to the gubernatorial thing in a minute. So immediately after lunch, Ken got up and he asked the body, and he didn't have to because the chair has a prerogative of having a parliamentarian. They don't need the consent of the body for that. But it's always nice to, because you want the body to be able to trust the advice that the chair is getting. So the chair asked the body if they had any objection to me serving as co-parliamentarian with the parliamentarian that was already retained by the former board. And that was without objection. So Nick Sarwark must not have been in the room at that moment. So that's how that happened. But meanwhile, Adam Reinhardt, who is one of the vice chairs that resigned, lies his ass off on Facebook, okay? He gets on Facebook and says, oh, they just removed the vice chair, which they did do. They didn't remove him as vice chair, but they elected a pro tem and installed in Karen Ann Harlos as replaced our parliamentarian with Karen Ann Harlos, who will just rubber stamp everything Michael Heist does. Okay. I didn't replace the retained parliamentarian. And second, right at the time that Adam was making that post, I was running up to the chair to whisper in his ear because Michael Heist was on the microphone making a motion that was out of order. Oh, I thought I was supposed to just rubber stamp everything Michael Heist does. Then why was I the one who was whispering in the chair's ear, hello, Ken, that motion that Michael just made, that is completely out of order. Okay? The retained parliamentarian didn't do that. I did. But I thought I was just supposed to rubber stamp everything Michael did. And I think Michael was pretty irritated at me at that point. He didn't say so, but he had a look on his face like, what? Not like, what? How dare you contradict me? But he didn't realize it was out of order. So, I do not rubber stamp anything anyone does. I would never, ever do that. CM Olensky, that was actually audible on the live stream. Was me saying it was out of order that was audible on the live stream? It might have been, because there was a mic right there. And the motion that Mr. Heiss made that was out of order was to vote for delegates overnight by an email sent to everyone who was registered for the convention, and announce the results the next day. And I said, no, your bylaws do not allow for absentee voting. It has to be people present in the room. That is completely out of order. Now, later in the day, I said to Michael, you know, I'm your friend. If you were planning on making that motion, you could have asked me ahead of time and I would have told you, nope, you can't do that. That's out of order. But anyway, you think I would have proven last LPPA convention when I advised the chair multiple times in ways that the Mises Caucus didn't like, that I do not rubber stamp anything. Now, it was noted in chat here that there were objections. Hold on one second. And I don't know to what motion. There were a few objections over the weekend that weren't on mic and weren't heard. I would believe it. The acoustics in that room were terrible. And something that wasn't enforced, but I wasn't the chair, I brought it up several times, is that people cannot be shouting from their chair. They need to run up to the mic, and if they have an interruptible motion, they need to body their way to the front of that line and yell into the mic. The acoustics were terrible. It would not surprise me. But the minute they could get to the mic, as soon as they could timely get to the mic, they needed to make the objection. It's too late now. And to be bringing it up now, unless it was a violation of the bylaws, it's too late. But I would completely believe there were objections that weren't heard. There were a few times that objections I heard that the chair didn't hear, that I had to poke him, which I'm sure a lot of you saw, and said, someone over there is trying to get your attention. Also, the way the lights were, you couldn't see the mics. Like, depending on where you were sitting, you couldn't even see someone was standing at the mics. The setup wasn't ideal. Where I was sitting, like where the chair was, like the spotlight was directly on him. It was very difficult for him to even see who was at the mics. Where we were off to the side, the two parliamentarians, it was easier. And we often reminded him, well, not reminded him, alerted him that there was someone at the mic that wanted his attention. So, but before lunch, apparently there was a brawl. I wasn't paying attention. That was almost immediately after I got threatened to be removed from the hall. And I was still in a little bit of shock over that. And all I know, I was looking down from what I remember. And the next thing I did, I was looking up, saw there was a scuffle up at the front of the stage, and that security was called. Now, some people are alleging that punches were thrown. I did not see any punches thrown. What I saw was a bunch of guys up there bowing up at each other. If you know by what I mean by bowing up, all being all, to each other. I did not see a fight. If there was a fight, I do think somebody who threw a punch would have been removed from the hall. If there was a punch thrown, apparently the person who got punched didn't insist upon anyone being removed from the hall. What I did see was some guys, some anti-Mises people, I believe, bullying a guy in a wheelchair with oxygen. And hate me if you want, but I think guys standing up to defend a guy in a wheelchair with oxygen, they're the good guys. You don't intimidate a disabled person. Call me crazy. And this is why the brawl started. The guy who ended up being appointed as Sergeant at Arms had a temper and did not calm things down. In fact, I think contributed to escalating things. And apparently the altercation started out because the guy who was Sergeant at Arms and someone else decided upon themselves, not because anything unruly was happening, not by order of the chair, to go up to the two mics, the only places where the delegates had a voice, and remove the mics and run off with them. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Somebody gets up and just steals the mics and runs away with them. And then starts monopolizing the mics up at the front of the store to lecture, front of the auditorium to lecture everybody. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't blame people for getting hot under the collar when the only voice they had was being taken away by someone like just taking the mics and running away with them. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But I don't believe any punches were thrown. I didn't see any. And if there were, nobody pressed any kind of charges. But if I was a guy and I saw some guy in a wheelchair on oxygen getting bullied, I would have stood up for him too. Call me crazy. It was over in like under 2 minutes. The mics were put back in the stands and everything went back to normal. Anyone trying to make that out to more than it actually was is just looking to start shit. It's on video, and from what I can tell on the video, no one can see any punches being thrown either. And you can see on the video, maybe it lasted 3-4 minutes. I'm guessing about 2 minutes, but I'm not a good judge of time. It certainly wasn't more than 5 minutes. I think it was considerably less than 5 minutes. It was over and done before you even realized what was happening. Then business went forward again, much more casually than I would have preferred. And I think that's one reason there were probably some objections that weren't heard because going to the microphone wasn't being enforced. And there was far too much allowances of people just calling the question sitting from your seat. You don't get to do that. And then there was too much debating calling the question happening. You don't debate calling the question. That defeats the whole point of calling the question, which is to end debate. Oh, my word. So there were some irregularities, but the body seemed to be happy with it. And I thought Ken did a great job. He was very, very friendly, very, very amiable. It was exactly the type of attitude of a chair that needed to calm things down. Probably somebody too strict would have just escalated things. The elections, I think, went very smoothly. The board elections, it was a Mises sweep. Then I'm trying to think of what else interesting happened. We're going to get to the gubernatorial thing. I know that's something else. Okay, the other controversy was the election of delegates by slate. Their bylaws, and they did not have convention rules, does not specify the method for electing delegates. Do I like electing delegates by slate? No. That's why the Colorado bylaws prohibit it. Do I think it's a good look to elect delegates by slate? No. But the body chose to do so. They moved to suspend the rules to allow an election by slate. It passed not just the election, but the suspension of the rules. It wasn't done in one motion. Passed overwhelmingly. So whether or not you liked the election by slate, the results would have been exactly the same if it was done by just writing the names down. It was a foregone conclusion. They had the votes. Deal with it. It was obvious that no matter what way the election was handled, the result was going to be the same. But they did it perfectly legally. Do I think it was the best look? No. But now we're going to go back to a year ago when I was the parliamentarian for Pennsylvania. And they decided that they, for the first time in 30 years, was not going to waive the seasoning requirements because they were trying to keep Mises people out. And what did I say back then? Y'all could go look at the video where I said, Mises people, stop crying. You should have been prepared ahead of time and met the seasoning requirements. And I was not popular for saying that. I said, was it a bad look for them not to waive the requirement? Yeah, it was a shitty, douchey look, but they were allowed to do it. I am so consistent, it's scary. A year passes. How the tables have turned. Do I think it was not a good look to elect by slate? Yep, but they did it. And you can thank yourselves, the people from a year ago. Because here's the thing. When you screw people over, they lie in wait and they get even. That's just the way it goes. And if you remember, I see I missed some super chats. Thank you so much for the super chat, Dave Davis. I see I missed, for some reason my screen wasn't refreshing. Okay, I'll go back through those comments. So, last convention, when the cathedral people managed to keep the Mises people off legally, it was a shitty move, but it was legal. They had a year to decide what they wanted the future of their party to be. They could have chosen to make peace and work together, or they could have chosen to be assholes and make enemies all year. And they chose the latter. And they got what was coming to them. That's what happens when you treat people like that. Now, are we going to continue a cycle of every other year doing this to each other? Or are we going to call it even now? Are we going to call it even now and just work together? I hope we just call it even now and work together. And I'm going to be going to the comments in one moment. This is kind of, I guess, my monologue. So for the second year in a row, I hope that I've proven, though some people will still slander my name, that I am absolutely impartial when I am a parliamentarian. I do not sacrifice my parliamentary ethical principles for anybody. Anybody. And I don't appreciate being slandered in that way. And I think I've proven myself twice. I'm glad that was on the mic. And during break, very clearly anti-Mises people came up to me and told me, hey, I would like to make X motion. How can I do it properly? And I advised them properly. Because my job, when I am a parliamentarian, is not to take a side. It is to make sure that the procedure is followed properly. And I have always done that, and I will always, always do that, even if I think what you're trying to do is stupid. I don't know how many times I have to prove myself on this, but I would hope it's been proven yet again. So let's go through the chat. Oh, one last thing. One of the highlights, and maybe this lady will be watching this show. One of the highlights is a lady who was a complete stranger to me, an older lady, probably my age. I'm an older lady, so I don't mean that I'm not insulting in that way. If I didn't dye my hair pink, it would be gray. So an older lady came up to me during a break and said, I go to a lot of functions in which it's ran under Roberts and there are parliamentarians. And you are the best parliamentarian I have ever seen at keeping their cool in very heated situations and giving sound advice. So that was, that made me very happy. Because I do take a lot of pride in my work. Okay, so let's go back through the comments here. I'm so sorry that I missed some of this. O'Donnell says, I heard Sarwart got noted again. Now, he wasn't running for anything, but the candidate he supported got noted. We're going to get into the gubernatorial candidate last, because I think that's going to be the most controversial thing. Let me see here. Oh, yeah, the cathedral thing, it's a Michael Malice term to mean the establishment. And for some reason, some group of people who are anti-Mises decided to, like, you know the way gay people have redeemed the word queer? It used to be an insult, and now they've taken it as a term of pride. For some reason, the anti-Mises people seem to think like they were going to do the same thing with the word cathedral. It's like calling yourself CNN, basically. It's pretty bad. So they called themselves the Cathedral Caucus. I'm not insulting them. I'm using the name they use for themselves. Okay, Robert Spina, says a lot of cathedral libertarians are claiming that it's against Pennsylvania law to have out-of-state voting delegates. Is that true? I know nothing about Pennsylvania law. All I can say is it seems pretty damn convenient to be bringing that up now when they've had out-of-state voting delegates for 30 years. It really seemed like a last-ditch effort to keep their power. I agree. They have a legal action committee, and the legal action committee determined it's not against state law. But I'm not an attorney, and I certainly don't know anything about Pennsylvania election law. So I'm not qualified to talk on that, but I would say it's just pretty convenient that it comes up this year. They brought in a lot of out-of-state people as well. It probably balanced out. And all of the out-of-state people voted to revoke their own memberships at the end of convention. So this will never be an issue again. Let's continue. Thank you, Richard McKinley, for your compliment. Says the party needs you committed to liberty and the boss of parliamentary procedure. Tony's right. Where I called it a brawl, he said scuffle is a better word. Yeah, it was a momentary scuffle. That is a much better word. Nicholas says punches weren't thrown, just some shoving. I didn't even see any shoving. It could have happened. I wasn't paying attention the whole time. But whoever got shoved, I mean, shoving's not right, didn't press charges, and they could have, but also going after a guy in a wheelchair on oxygen isn't the right thing to do. Was someone physically removed? No, nobody ended up being physically removed. Some people physically removed themselves, which we will be getting to. Richard says, we sponsored a Libertarian convention and a mosh pit broke out. That's exactly what that's what it reminded me of, was the mosh pit. I was just waiting for the hockey game to break out. Yeah, Kate Nicole says the same thing I did. I didn't see any punches either, just chest puffing. That's what I saw. Wayne Robinson said Sarwark was the only one claiming punches were thrown. And when punches were thrown, allegedly, he was as far away from that as could possibly be. He can't even cut down a sapling. I thought he was in a wheelchair. It says he had oxygen and a heart monitor. I thought he was in a wheelchair. Wasn't he in a wheelchair part of the time? Again, I could be mistaken. The whole thing is a big mosh pit in my own mind. But thank you for correcting me. So I was conflating two different guys. Now I know, oh my God. Please forgive me for getting your name, the candidate from New York. I know that gentleman who's usually in a wheelchair, but I thought there were two gentlemen in a wheelchair. Continuing. JJ says, could you post a link to the video? I don't have the video. I've seen clips of it, but I've never watched the whole video, so I don't even know who has it. It says Mitch posted it on his Facebook. James Weeks was not there. They showed the whole video on Bootleg Libertarian's show yesterday. JJ says the rule in the Colorado bylaws can be suspended against slate voting. I don't agree with you. Won't be the first time we disagreed. I love it when parliamentarians disagree. It's so much fun. Thank you again, Dave Davis, for the super chat. I'm going back through here. O'Donnell proposes a convention rule that no delegate can participate unless under the influence of LSD. I think there's probably about 20% of the delegates there would have qualified even under your rule. Big Head 15044 said it was my first convention. I was really impressed with your knowledge of parliamentary rules and consistency. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christopher Baker, for the super chat. Robert Spina says his guest was anti-Mises, so I would suggest finding the clip of the video. It's a totally different story from what I'm reciting here. I suggest everyone watch the video and come to their own conclusions. And Robert Spina is correct. They had a whole year to extend an olive branch and work, and they didn't. They even put out newsletter articles. I know they were disguised as editorials, just tearing down other party members. I was absolutely disgusted by that. And O'Donnell for litter. I'm going to put this up because there's a couple things from the New Hampshire convention I want to put up here. So O'Donnell says, we forced the chair to call the LPNH convention into a short recess so CAH can explain to me why what I wanted to do wasn't allowed, even though I had support from a bunch of delegates. True. And the chair of LPNH will tell you he was very mad at me at the beginning of convention when I told him, you didn't give proper notice for your bylaws amendments. You can't hear them. And he's like, damn it. And I'm like, sorry, dude. There wasn't proper notice. You can't hear them. I'm not there to tell people what they want to hear. I'm there to tell you what the rules are. You might want to hear them. You might not want to hear them. Thank you, Matt Shooter, who said I did a damn good job. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Bill Cox. Yes, I was always willing to work with them. Anyone who came up to the table to ask me for parliamentary, like, how do I do X parliamentarily correctly? Even if I didn't agree with what they wanted to do, I told them how to do it. I spent a long time researching some of those questions, by the way. Okay, let's see here. Big Head says, I love that Ken apologized for the wording in the bylaws for out-of-state voting. Yeah, that was funny. But that's no longer an issue because, was it unanimous? I think the vote to remove state convention delegate status from out-of-state people was amended out of the bylaws, and I think it was unanimous. We barely had quorum that day, but I think it was unanimous. But I have an interesting quorum question for you, JJ, if you're here. I'm just interested as a parliamentarian. I left for the airport at this point, so I don't know what happened. So we had 339 registered delegates, included out-of-state people. On the second day, with proper quorum, the bylaws were amended, which go into effect immediately, that removed delegate status from the out-of-state people. What then was the amount from which quorum would be derived? Would it be the original 339? Or would it be 339 minus the out-of-state people who were just voted out of delegate status? I have no parliamentary idea what the answer is to that question. Do you? I'm really interested. I don't think this will ever come up again in my lifetime. But what's the answer to that? If you have an idea what the answer is to that, I would love to know. I have no idea what the answer is to that. Thank you again, Bill Cox. No, the other parliamentarian was not in a wheelchair. I guess everybody's seeing wheelchairs everywhere at this convention. I was wrong. The guy in oxygen did not have a wheelchair. I thought he did. I could have sworn he did. The other parliamentarian was not in a wheelchair either. Travis Bose said there was a few claims about the bylaws and constitution made from your right that I never found when I pulled them up, and you are correct. And they were made by either someone from the teller team or the party secretary. She came up and spoke with me, and I told her, I don't know where she was getting those from. Like, she was talking about it needed 10 people to do something. That was in no document that neither myself or the other parliamentarian can find. Hayden says, I heard everyone was required to be in a wheelchair. We were all in wheelchairs. Oh, I didn't cover Waldenberger yet. That's coming up. I'm saving that. Thank you so much, Crash Mondo, for the super chat. And thank you for your compliments on my serving as parliamentarian at your convention. Is there videos from convention in Florida? I don't know. Oh, and boy, there's some things with Waldenberger with points of personal privilege, too. Woof! People do not understand that. Big Head, I did mention how rude San Rob was to me. He's the one who threatened to have me removed from the hall. And he was just stalling to try to get the chair back there, but she wasn't leaving her massage. The vote was unanimous. Okay. JJ, I don't know what your yes is to. If that was to the answer to my question about what was the new registered delegate amount, make it explicit, please. Your quorum was immediately changed. Okay. So let's just make up some numbers. So if the original registered delegates was 339 and 139 of them were from out of state, then the quorum was immediately changed. The number from which quorum would be derived was immediately changed to 200, with quorum being 101. Okay. I did not know the answer to that question, but I was also like, I'm going to the airport. Have fun. I did not know the answer to that question. I see you did that, JJ. I was still scrolling. Thank you. Matthew, no, the status wasn't removed at the end of convention. Bylaws changes take effect immediately. It says C44. Okay, look. Wah! Mike, I've got your Roberts here. Oh, what is it in the old version, JJ? Because I only have the 11th here. Where would it be? Well, I know it'd be chapter 40, so let me try to find it. 40. Quorum. That sounds like the right place. Okay, where in the old version would it be? Help me. Help me, JJ. Note on procedure in changing the quorum provision of bylaws. Okay, so I see where you're saying. So it would be 346, line 35 through 347, lines 1 through 5. Okay, now I know the answer to that question. Appreciate it. We shall put away the holy book now. But, Mike, quorum requirements, though, is based on delegates, so I think 44 does apply. I think JJ is correct. Okay. Alrighty, so I got through all the questions. So now let's get to Waldenberger, because I know that's what you've all been waiting for. Listen, John Waldenberger, if you're watching this, I've never had a personal beef with you. So I am going to make fun of you a little bit. But, like, I haven't had a personal beef with you. But you were hilarious. So I forgot what he was running for. Was it lieutenant governor? I think it was lieutenant governor. And he gets up. He gets up to give his speech. I should play the video of it. If someone has the link to the video, please post it in chat, because I'll play it. So he gets up and he gives this big speech about how we're not about liberty and how terrible we all are. Like, That's not really going to endear you to... That's not really going to endear you to the audience, okay? So he gets up. And gives this speech. And then says, at the end of this convention, I resign all of my positions. He didn't have any positions. He had already been removed from all of his positions. At the end of this convention, goodbye, cruel political party. So, at the end of this convention, I'm removing all of my positions. Removing myself from... And he storms off. Okay? And he storms off down one of the hallways. And then he stops by the mic on his way storming out to go, F you, Ken Krawcheck! And that was a good imitation, you have to admit. That was... Yeah, we'll do the McVeigh thing, too. F you, Ken Krawcheck! And then he storms out going like this the whole time. Oh, and he did drop his mic too. Yes, he did. Yeah, and he storms out. And he storms out, putting both middle fingers up on the way out. And I could have sworn on the way out he realized he didn't have any positions to withdraw, to resign from. And I could have sworn, but someone's going to need to watch the video, on the way out that he also resigned his membership in the party. Because once he left, Ken Krawcheck said, let it please be noted on the record that Mr. Waldenberg resigned his membership from the party. So, I think that's what he said as he was storming out the door. Now, I'm not going to say who did this. But after the convention, I was with a group of friends. And there was someone who did a better Waldenberger impression than me, who was like, F you, Ken Krawcheck. I've got 10 sticks of butter in my freezer at home to go eat. So now whenever you see me mentioning 10 sticks of butter, that's... Because I'm just picturing him at home. Fuck you, Ken Krawcheck. I'm getting a cramp. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Oh. Woof. Oh, I don't see any links. I would play the video. I'd play the video, but the links aren't coming through. But I've got 10 sticks of butter in my freezer. Okay, so now let's move on. So that was the John Waldenberger show. That was the John Waldenberger show. But earlier in the day, Mr. McVeigh, who for some... The dude has to have a delusion. The dude has to have... It's on Carolyn Pacinko on Twitter. Okay, I'll look that up. It's on Facebook Messenger. Okay, we'll play the John Waldenberger video. But first, let's do Ken McVeigh. Is the McVeigh... Ken McVeigh. Will McVeigh. If anyone has the Will McVeigh video, I would love that as well. So, Will McVeigh Oh, and as Waldenberger is leaving, the whole room erupts into applause. So, then Will McVeigh's on the mic earlier. Mr. Chair, I hereby move that all real libertarians adjourn outside in the parking lot. Hey, there was no parking lot outside. This is like one of those downtown areas where like directly outside is the street. But anyway. And stalks out. And nobody... And the motion fails, of course. Yeah, me, Mrs. Rubber Stamp, everything Mike Heiss says. Afterwards, I said to him, that takes effect immediately, right? And he's like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. It says in the bylaws it doesn't. I said, really, Mike? Show me where in the bylaws it says that. Tony says, to be fair, there was a parking lot next to the hotel. But wasn't that being used for Jackie's hex? So Jackie Perry posts instruction on Facebook on how to hex the convention, complete with incantations. Okay, let me look in what Facebook Messenger? Because I have 2 Facebooks now because I'm currently on ban right now on one of my Facebook accounts. I can't say why because then YouTube would probably ban me. So let me look. Let's see what Messenger. Let's see what Messenger it's on. Because you can still do Messenger even... Okay, thank you, Justin. So let me go to that account and find the John Waldenberger clip. 1 second. My computer is being super, super slow. Oh, I need to change this to hardwire. Hold on. Okay. Oh, I see I have 3 messages. Let's see. Hold on. In order to see, because I'm an old lady, I need to move up close to my computer. Okay, I see Justin O'Donnell. Waldenberger's Last Stand. Okay. Let me see if this pulls up first. Okay. I don't got any volume on it, though. Okay. Here we go. All right. I'm going to share my screen and we will play Waldenberger's Last Stand. 1 second. Let me share this screen. Let's pull this up. Let's see.
John Waldenberger, why should you be our lieutenant governor candidate?
Can't hear it very well.
On this day in 1967, dozens of individuals marched across the bridge of Selma, Alabama for freedom. The Libertarian Party is supposed to stand for freedom. I've been campaigning for the last year or so for this position. The actions taken here today and this weekend show me that this party, as it currently stands, is not the party of freedom anymore. Show some respect, please. You asked before. You guys want to break the law and make sure we don't get candidates on the ballot and can never get candidates on the ballot as a political party? This is our job. You have shown your true colors. There are some great folks in this room who have put dedicated hours, money, time, sacrificed time away from their families for this fucking party. And none of you have shown the respect that those people deserve. So to those of you who have not been shown the respect you deserve, I am sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your apology.
At the end of this convention, I officially resign my position in this party.
Oh, it says this one doesn't have his parting remarks. Oh no, I heard F.U. Ken Krawchuk on there. Is there one that has him on the mic and has him leaving all the way? I would love to see that one. Oh, so that was Waldenberger's Last Stand. Let Let me go back to my screen. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. I'm such an idiot. Does the other link have the one... One second here, I messed up. Does the other link have the one that has him at the mic going, "Fuck you, King Krawcheck"? And do we have Will McVeigh? I heard somebody sent me the Will McVeigh link too. Let me look quickly here. So that was Waldenberger's Last Stand. You're pretty sure that's the only one. That's too bad. Let's see what this one here is. No, that's Waldenberger again. Oh, bummer. I'm just checking out all the links people sent me just to see if there's one that's a little different. Nah, that's the same one. Bummer. I wish we had the Will McVeigh one with asking all the real libertarians to leave. Oh boy. Okay. Now let's get to something more serious. The meme I have, John, the meme is hilarious. It was getting streamed live on local Pennsylvania TV. That's embarrassing. Yeah, Matthew Mansell, I thought I've seen the one of him walking out with his fingers flipping everyone off too. And that's when he resigned his membership. And the meme is funny. I'll show the meme again. I showed it on my last stream, but that meme is one of my favorite memes. I'm going to pull that up if I can, and we'll share this. Yeah, that meme is pretty good. Which should be showing on your screen. Let me know. Yeah. The look on Heiss's face. So if you can't read it, it's got Nick up there, CIA agent trying to keep this coup together. It says Karen Ann Harlow's exhaustively trying to maintain Robert's rules of law. And then Heiss with the look like the cat that ate the canary. It says Heiss about to derail that shit. Oh boy. Oh, I just thought that was good. That was good. Okay, I don't need that. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Woof. Okay, so now on to the governor stuff. Oh boy. There's a lot of controversy with the governor stuff. Both governor candidates were bad. Let's deal first with the Mises mess up. But no, I'm supposed to defend everything the Mises Caucus does, I thought. Okay, the Mises put forth a governor candidate that was not properly vetted. And when I say he was not properly vetted, that's an understatement. The dude allegedly showed inappropriate body parts to people who weren't of the proper age to see such body parts. That is not good. The guy claims he didn't do it and that he was set up by the state. That's possible. But that's not something you find out on the day of convention. A lot of people found that out on the day of convention. People do get set up by the state. I don't know the guy. I don't know whether he was guilty or not guilty. I just know that you don't find that out on the day of convention. Okay? And I see in chat that Heiss has taken full responsibility for not vetting him properly. The other guy, however... So first, let's get to the ending. Noda ended up winning for governor, and that was the right choice. The other guy, however, poses at a window with a gun, looking out the window, saying, I see the takeover buses approaching, insinuating that he's about to snipe party members with his gun out the window. It's funny how one side is just upset about one thing. Now, I didn't see that prior to the convention. And I'm going to try to pull up these pictures to show you what a hypocrite Nick Sarwark is. Now, to be clear, I have no problem with that guy bringing a gun to convention. I think all Libertarian conventions should be 2A friendly. But the organizers of this convention, who are the ones who supported this guy, made it clear to tell everyone you weren't allowed to bring a gun, that it was a gun-free zone. And most people obeyed that. Yet this guy brings a gun and claims to be, quote-unquote, joking about murdering people he doesn't agree with. So let me try to find these pictures for you guys. I don't want you to take my word for it. I know it's in one of my posts, so it's going to... Yeah, Soluski. So just give me a second to scroll through my post. Okay, here it is. Now let me find the pictures so that I can show you guys. Okay, so let me share my screen here. One second. Okay, you should see my Facebook screen here. So here's his first post. Standing in front of a big-ass tree. And this, again, is their governor candidate just getting ready for this weekend's LPPA convention with a rifle. Okay, next picture. And this is the one that I think was particularly bad. And I don't think I can make this bigger. I wish I could make it bigger. But there he is, of him out looking out a window holding a gun, saying, seeing the takeover buses arriving. He posted that himself. So if anyone edited it, he took accountability for this, by the way, anyway. I was asked about it on stage, so it wasn't edited. So here's him looking out a window, saying, seeing the takeover buses arriving. Now, you all could disagree with me, but that looks to me like the hotel we were at. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But that is completely inappropriate. To be joking, to be standing at a window, holding a gun, saying, oh, I see the people I don't agree with arriving, and then you have the former chair. Do I have the whole post here? I don't think I have the whole post here. I don't. I'm missing part of the post. Later on in that post, and I don't care who it's a portrayal of, you don't do that. Later on in that post, Nick Sarwark says, don't shoot until you see the whites of their cloaks. It is absolutely clear what he is calling takeover buses, because the narrative was that the Mises Caucus was bussing in people to take over the caucus. It is absolutely clear what he meant by I see the takeover buses arriving. It is absolutely clear what he is implying by that post. I'm standing at a window with a gun and I see the Mises Caucus people arriving. And Solosky did like Sarwark's comment that said, practice trigger control and don't shoot until you see the whites of their hoods. So, both governor candidates were completely awful. Well, again, I don't know if that other guy was set up. That was a vetting issue. If he wasn't set up, he was completely awful. So that's the deal with the two governor candidates. They both sucked. Heiss, I'm glad, took responsibility, sole responsibility, for not properly vetting that other gentleman. The cathedral types have taken no responsibility, as far as I've seen, to what that guy did. The guy was not pro-Mises. And his explanation on stage for him liking the "don't shoot until you see the whites of their hoods" comment was completely disingenuous. And even if that guy was set up, yes, it's a bad look for a candidate. And Kenny Kelly, he was asked directly if there was anything in his past that could prove embarrassing to the party, and he didn't mention it. So, that's the deal with the governor candidates. For being such a Mises shill, you would think I would be defending the fact that there was no vetting of that one guy. I am not. That was a bad mistake that needs to never happen again. So, that's what happened at the LPP. Oh, no, there's more. Okay, there's a little bit more. So, I'm still laughing at the redemption arc I had, though, that I went from getting threatened to be thrown out to after lunch being convention parliamentarian. So that was interesting. That was an interesting convention. So let's see if there's any other questions. And I agree. I don't know if I agree with Mike Seebeck's reasoning, but I agree with Mike Seebeck that the slate rule in our bylaws cannot be suspended. But if it can be, the Mises slate, I guess, will be all elected in Colorado. I don't know. I don't believe it can be suspended. But that's up for the body to decide. Mike, though, I found another big flaw in our bylaws. And I talked to JJ about this, and I agree with him. You know how when we have a 2-day convention, we say everyone's automatically checked out on Friday and they need to re-credential on Sunday so that we don't have forum problems? You're not allowed to do that. That has to be in our bylaws. And it creates session problems. So, for instance, for reconsideration and things like that, you're creating like a separate session. I think we're going to need to really double think that next time we do bylaws amendments. I think we just need to have like some kind of checkout clause or something, but it needs to be in our bylaws and not in our convention rules. JJ and I talked about that, and I think I tend to agree with him. So I know you're keeping a log of things that need to be fixed in our bylaws. That's something that needs to be fixed in our bylaws. It won't matter for this convention because we're only having a 1-day convention. Now, about the editing of the Pennsylvania bylaws to exclude out-of-state delegates. They did do that, but they didn't edit the portion that says out-of-staters can be state members. So I am still a state member of Pennsylvania. I'm also still eligible to serve as a national delegate for Pennsylvania, even though I live out of state. So their bylaws amendments did not go far enough. I think they thought they fixed all of that, but they didn't. They only fixed part of it, which is good. Out-of-staters can now not vote in their conventions, but they can still be national convention delegates, and they can still be Pennsylvania members. And Wayne says, I sent the 3 Joe pics from his Facebook page to your messenger. Thank you. I want those for future reference. So I'm going to see if there's any other questions before we end, because I do have a favor to do for a friend before my tired old ass goes back to sleep. I did no work on the Colorado Convention today because I got to wake up to those slanderous messages from John Phillips and Richard Longstreth trying to claim that Angela McArdle was stabbing me in the back. And that was not, and that was not pleasant. For those who didn't watch that stream, please watch that stream. Angela McArdle did not stab me in the back. Oh, O'Donnell, you've got to watch that stream. You already know he's a liar from the stream you and I did. He's claiming that Angela McArdle walked up to him after my suspension vote, hugged him, and basically I joke by say whisper in his ear. He didn't say that, but said, oh, you voted the right way. Oh, Stephen, yeah, I did forget to mention that. I did serve briefly as chair of the convention in Pennsylvania as well. So when Ken Krawcheck was running for judicial committee, he couldn't chair that portion because he was a candidate. So for that 10 or so minutes, was it 15 minutes, I did chair the PA convention, and I did chair it a little bit more formally than he did because I'm a little bit more formal than that. That's just how I am. So, yeah, I did chair briefly. And that's the first convention I've ever chaired, by the way. So Pennsylvania has the honor of being the first. Well, I don't know if Pennsylvania has the honor. I have the honor. Pennsylvania has the distinction, and I have the honor of that's the first convention I have ever chaired at. I've chaired plenty of committees. I've never chaired a convention before. Okay. Yeah, Travis, I was worried we wouldn't have the 170 votes either, but ended up being like 190 something, didn't it? And I asked to be excused from my duties so I could vote. Alrighty, everyone. I think that then is it for the night. I thank you all for your kind support. Please wish me luck this weekend in Colorado. I am not rerunning for a position in Colorado because I want to concentrate on my LNC secretary race. And I'm also running for town council. So, yeah, this will be my last hurrah, at least on the Colorado board for a while. I'll run again in the future for something else, I'm sure. 1 second, I need to sneeze. I think. I almost felt like I needed to sneeze. I won't rule out ever running for chair of Colorado, by the way, now that I've got a little bit more experience. Not anything I'm seeking at any time in the future, but I won't rule it out at some point. But I was very happy being secretary, but I'm also very happy that a qualified person has stepped up to take on that role, because I've got plenty of other things to do right now, and I would like to model the principle that if you're serving on national, you shouldn't be serving on a state board. Particularly not state chair, but I think not in a state board at all is probably a good practice. Excuse me. All right, everyone, if you enjoy this type of content, I really would encourage you to become a patron of the show. It really helps me out, particularly right now during my second unemployment phase. All right, everyone, I hope you have an awesome night, and I love you all.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a